Hey there, this is the Small Fish, Big Pod, the entrepreneurship podcast for the gallus few who dream and do. If you're a small biz owner, a creative freelancer, or someone dreaming of leaving your 9-to-5, this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Rhiannon Loudon, proud female founder, mum, and small biz champion. I was born and bred in Winnipeg, Canada, and currently live over in Glasgow, Scotland, where I run two small businesses, Rhiannon Neal Photography and Small Fish Brand Co. I started Small Fish Big Pod as a way of connecting the small business community, providing a platform where we can share open and honest stories, ideas, advice, and tips about running a small business. And now on to this week's episode. Thanks for tuning in. Hello and welcome to part 3 of my Self Employed Mum mini-series. This episode I am joined by Mare, more formally known as Marion Elkin-Greener. She is a psychologist and a small business owner. She is quite new in her small business journey. We have been working together on her brand and content strategy and a little bit of a sort of outline for her business over the past few months. And she is working hard away behind the scenes, getting ready to launch in the near future, all while working full-time as a psychologist, doing some teaching and some radio show hosting on the side, and raising 3 young children and 3 fur babies. So she has a very full schedule and lots of experience in juggling a career, motherhood, and a small business. And we have a great chat about the challenges of motherhood, how to build a business with a career and a young family at home. And Mare has a sort of unique perspective to share because she comes at it not only from her personal perspective and experience, juggling all of these things at once, but also from a psychologist's point of view. She talks about the expectations of society, the expectations that we put on ourselves, what it really looks like behind the scenes, and then of course shares some tips for handling it all from both her professional standpoint and what has worked for her personally as well. If you are new to the podcast, thanks so much for tuning in today. The podcast is normally about all things small business, so we talk about topics from all over the spectrum, but this is part 3 of a 4-part mini-series that is specifically about motherhood and entrepreneurship. It's something that is top of mind for me right now as I get ready to welcome baby number 2 into the world. At the time of recording these episodes, I am just about to start maternity leave, so getting very close to baby's arrival. And in speaking to a lot of other women in business, whether they have families already, are planning families, or are expecting a new addition to the family, I know that a lot of us are struggling with the same things, and it seemed like the perfect time to put together some episodes on this very specific topic. So this is part 3. To give you a quick recap of part 1 and 2, part 1 was a solo episode where I shared my own experience, both with my first daughter, who I had 4 years ago, and then being pregnant this time with baby number 2, trying to plan for mat leave, the kind of things that I have put in place so that I can actually take a break, and just some sort of honest perspective on what's worked for me, what's been challenging, how I've really felt about trying to juggle motherhood and entrepreneurship myself. Episode number 2 is with Susan at Sunshine Media Biz. Susan has 3 children at home and has been self-employed for quite some time. And she spoke a lot about the importance of being open and honest online, reality versus Instagram, and just juggling work life and family life. And she had a lot of great tips to share about trying to find a sort of better work-life balance and finding that separation between running your business and enjoying time with your family. So if you missed those 2 episodes, I hope you'll go back and give them a listen. As always, if you find this content helpful and relatable, please let me know what you think. You can drop me a message on Instagram, you can DM me, you can share in your stories, and it's a huge help to me if you take a moment to follow the podcast and review the podcast as well. Just helps it go up in the ratings, and also helps other people to find it. So enough said about that. Here we go with part 3 of the Self-Employed Mum series. Hi, Mare. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hello there.
How are you doing?
I'm pretty good, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. So to start out, can you tell us a little bit about you and your background, I think, because it's especially relevant to what we're talking about today, and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely, yeah. Licensed psychologist, but I was born and raised in Scotland, and then as a teenager I moved to the United States, and I lived in the United States for 20 years in Chicago. And I started my career, my education and my career there as and I trained to be a psychologist. So yeah, and I had a private practice there for about 10 years, where I did individual and group therapy and couples therapy as well. And then I also worked in a major hospital over there in a psychiatric unit. Inpatient and outpatient services. So yeah, all my background, I've been doing this for, I'm going to age myself here, I've been doing this for 25 years now. Can't believe it. And then yeah, I moved home 6 years ago now. And I work for a major company who we're actually starting. I'm in the midst of a brand new service. I'm managing some clinicians who are, it's all remote work that we do. There's about 14 clinicians, and I manage them on a day-to-day operational basis, as well as supervise them, etc. And then on top of all of this, I'm also starting, I'm also in the midst of starting my own business that's been kind of on the back burner for about 2 years, but now it's starting to pick up a little bit of steam. So that's it. That's what I do at the moment.
Well, I happen to know that you've done very well with your business. So I think you've done quite a lot to get it set up to where you have. I know that you've kind of had the idea and the work for a long time in the works, but Mare and I have been working together on her brand and content stuff, which has been brilliant. And I know that you're kind of moving into the design and the website stuff now as well. So yes, at the end of the episode, I will give you a chance to let us know where to find you online so people can find you on Instagram and connect with you there. But thanks for giving us a bit of background, because I think it's really relevant to what we're talking about today. This is obviously part of a mini series all about sort of entrepreneurship and motherhood and pregnancy and all of these sort of hats that we wear and things that we try to juggle as women in business. And I thought you are just the perfect person to talk to about this, because I know, first of all, that that's something that you're quite passionate about, but also that you have that experience firsthand, not just being a mom or running a business or having a professional career, but you've kind of got it coming from all three angles. So thanks for coming on to talk a little bit about that. And now that you've talked about your business already, tell us a bit about your family life. How many kids do you have? That kind of thing.
Oh, I have a zoo. And by the way, it's my pleasure to be here. I love this sort of stuff, thrive on it. I have twin boys who are 4, identical twin boys. And then I have an older boy who is 7.5. And then I can't forget my fur children. I have 2 old senior dogs now, and then I have my I've got a new puppy, a sheepadoodle, whose name is Dougal.
So I had to so cute.
I know, he's at my feet right now. So I had to mention my fur children as well as my own kids. So that's the story, yeah. And then I'm married. I better not forget him, huh? I've been married for oh God, 5 years. No, I'm 8. No, 8, 9, 12, 3 years we've been married together, 6, and I'm very fortunate because I think it works. And it allows me to be who I am in many ways as a result of a lot of the support he gives me. So I'm very lucky in that sense.
That is really good to hear. And yeah, I think you definitely do have a bit of a zoo. I've only got the 1 4-year-old and the dog, and well, I've got the husband as well. But sometimes I think that's quite a lot. So good on you for managing all that.
Well, yeah, I know. I'm glad I don't drink. So, but rarely I don't drink. So, but I'm just kidding. Yeah, people say like, how do you have downtime? But in actual fact, I do. It's not that bad. I think part of it is structure.
So do you find, is that kind of how you manage it all then? Because I know you've got the full-time job, you're putting in all these hours kind of behind the scenes, starting your business. And then obviously you've got 3 small children to parent as well. So how do you manage all that? And is finding that structure, is that kind of the way that it sort of keeps things running?
I think that I have to give a shout out to Stephen, my husband, because I think, I've met someone who's an incredibly hands-on father and doesn't mind getting into the nitty-gritty of a lot of day-to-day stuff with the kids, which then allows me to focus on the things that I have a passion for. So it also helps that he's self-employed. So he makes his own hours, his own time. He can work during the night if he needs to. He also functions on way less sleep than I do. He's just somebody that can do that and I can't. And he's always been very kind about that when all the feedings and stuff were going on when the boys were tiny. So, I think that's part of it. I think part of it for us as a family has had to have been super structured about things, especially having twins. When we brought them out of the hospital, we knew when their feedings were, and and it's just a very structured environment. And I can't say it's like that on weekends, but I can say to you kind of Sunday through Thursday, it's pretty structured in the house, and we know when dinner time is and baths and all that stuff and books and and then that allows us, once we can get them to bed, we can kind of enjoy ourselves with our own company, the company of each other or whatever we're going to do. Sometimes we just go in and work in the office and do our own thing, so yeah, it's about structure, if I'm honest with you. But I'll also be honest with you that this is all tinged with guilt. I sometimes ask myself if I'm with my children enough, it's not with my children, if I'm as clued in with them enough as I'd like to be. Yeah, I sometimes wonder.
The guilt is real. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think a big part of the problem with all this stuff is the guilt. So you're obviously managing okay. Everybody's alive and well. Your business is, you're building up a business. You still have a job. Everybody's okay. Nobody's, killed each other yet. And that should kind of be enough, but somehow we do start questioning ourselves. And I don't know about you, but I feel like if I put in more hours with my business, then I feel guilty that I'm not giving Charlie enough time. And then if I spend more time with Charlie, but then I feel like I'm not getting stuff to do off my to-do list, then I feel a little bit guilty about that. And I feel like, I've let the business slide. Or it's kind of like no matter what you do, you're always feeling guilty about something. And I think, and again, I'm gender stereotyping here, which I don't like to do, but I do think this is a female trait where we're so hard on ourselves and we're always evaluating if we're doing well enough or good enough or just enough in general. And the guilt is a really big obstacle.
It is. And sometimes I think to myself, when I'm 70 odd years old or whatever, or retired, and I'm looking at because I have 3 boys, I'm looking at all my sons and they're adults, or they're, God willing, or they're married with their own families and stuff. Will they have felt my presence? Will it have been enough for them? But I think that's stuff that a lot of us think about, but I honestly believe that, if I'm really honest with you, my children know I love them. My children, there's affection between my children and me. There's laughter. And I think that's enough for just now. And it's kind of, I hate to say it, but it's kind of like what Hillary Clinton said, is it takes a village. And I do believe in that, because I think we put so much pressure on ourselves as mothers, but we tend to forget that there's a kind of outer circle that also is in play here, meaning the grandmother, the grandfather, the teachers, the friends,